Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Shinvatam Swagata Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtanaha, Hridyantastovya Bhadrani, Vidunoti Suhritsatam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Nastapareshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So we have a reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 1, entitled The First Step in God Realization. We're on text 12 today. Read off of here, it's a whole lot easier for me. Okay. Kim Pramattasya Bahubihi Kim Pramattasya Bahubihi Parokshaya Hayanayr Iha Parokshaya Hayanayr Iha Varam Muhurtam Viditam Varam Muhurtam Viditam Gatate Shreyase Yataha Gatate Shreyase Yataha Kim Pramattasya Bahubi Parokshaya Hayanayr Iha Varam Muhurtam Viditam Gatate Shreyase Yataha Kim Pramattasya Bahubihi Parokshaya Hayanayr Iha Varam Muhurtam Viditam Gatate Shreyase Yataha How many times was that? Was that 3? Yeah. Okay, please check.
Kim Pramattasya Bahubihi Parokshaya Hayanayr Varam Muhurtam Viditam Gatate Shreyase Yataha Kim Pramattasya Bahubihi
Parokshaya Hayanayr
Gatate Shreyase Yataha
Kim Pramattasya Bahubihi Parokshaya Hayanayr Iha Varam Muhurtam Viditam Gatate Shreyase Yataha
Kim Pramattasya Bahubihi Parokshaya Varam Muhurtam Viditam Gatate Shreyase Yataha
Kim Pramattasya Bahubihi Parokshaya Varam Muhurtam Viditam Gatate Shreyase Yataha
Word meanings. Kim. What is? Pramattasya. Of the bewildered. Bahubihi. By many. Parokshai. Inexperienced. Hayanai. Years. Iha.
Iha.
in this world.
In this world.
Varam,
Varam.
better.
Better.
Muhurtam,
Mahuratam.
a moment.
A moment.
Viditam,
Viditam.
conscious.
Conscious.
Gattate,
Daktate.
one can try for.
One can try for.
Shreyase,
Shreyase.
in the matter of the supreme interest.
In the matter of the supreme interest.
Yaktaha,
Yaktaha.
by that.
By that.
Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
I'll read the whole thing first. What is the value of a prolonged life which is wasted, inexperienced by years in this world? Better a moment of full consciousness, because that gives one a start in searching after his supreme interest. Please repeat. What is the value of a prolonged life?
What is the value of a prolonged life?
Which is wasted.
Which is wasted.
Inexperienced by years in this world.
Inexperienced by the years in this world.
Better a moment of full consciousness.
Better a moment of full consciousness.
Because that gives one a start.
Because that gives one a start.
In searching after his supreme
In
interest.
searching after his supreme interest.
Purport. Srila Shukadeva Goswami instructed Maharaj Parikshit about the importance of the chanting of the holy name of the Lord by every progressive gentleman. Progressive means you're going to make advancement. One who wants to make advancement. In order to encourage the king, who had only 7 remaining days of life. Srila Shukadeva Goswami asserted that there is no use in living hundreds of years without any knowledge of the problems of life. Better to live for a moment with full consciousness of the supreme interest to be fulfilled. The supreme interest of life is eternal, with full knowledge and bliss. Those who are bewildered by the external features of the material world and are engaged in the animal propensities of the eat, drink, and be merry type of life are simply wasting their lives by the unseen passing away of valuable years. We should know in perfect consciousness that human life is bestowed upon the conditioned soul to achieve spiritual success, and the easiest possible procedure to attain this end is to chant the holy name of the Lord. In the previous verse, we have discussed this point to a certain extent, and we may further be enlightened on the different types of offenses committed unto the feet of the holy name. Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhu has quoted many passages from authentic scriptures and has ably supported the statements in the matter of offenses at the feet of the holy name. From Vishnu Yamala Tantra, Srila Jiva Goswami has proven that one can be liberated from the effects of all sins simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Quoting from the Markandeya Purana, Sri Goswamiji says that one should neither blaspheme the devotee of the Lord nor indulge in hearing others who are engaged in belittling a devotee of the Lord. A devotee should try to restrict the vilifier by cutting out his tongue. And, being unable to do so, one should commit suicide rather than hearing the blaspheming of the devotees of the Lord. Before I go on, this is a really strong statement, but I'm going to immediately deal with it. That's a pretty strong thing to do. Best you just get out of there. If you can't cut out the guy's tongue or commit suicide, then just leave the scene. Don't sit there and listen to it and let it affect you. The conclusion is that one should neither hear nor allow vilification of a devotee of the Lord. Or it also says that one should not allow, if one can defeat this blasphemy, then one should try to do so. Like sometimes somebody is just running their mouth and saying something, and you're maybe a more senior devotee, or you've got a better grasp of the situation. You correct him, and he stops. Okay, if you can do that, that's good. But if you can't stop him, leave the scene, because you don't want to cut out his tongue and you don't want to commit suicide. Just don't stay there. So, okay. As far as distinguishing the Lord's holy name from the names of the demigods, the revealed scriptures disclose in Bhagavad Gita 10:41 that all extraordinarily powerful beings are but parts and parcels of the supreme energetic Lord Krishna. Except for the Lord himself, everyone is subordinate. No one is independent of the Lord. Since no one is more powerful than or equal to the energy of the Supreme Lord, no one's name can be as powerful as that of the Lord. By chanting the Lord's holy name, we can derive all the stipulated energy synchronized from all sources. Therefore, one should not equalize the supreme holy name of the Lord with any other name. Brahma, Shiva, or any other powerful god can never be equal to the supreme Lord Vishnu. The powerful holy name of the Lord can certainly deliver one from sinful effects. But one who desires to utilize this transcendental potency of the holy name of the Lord in one's sinister activities is the most degraded person in the world. Such persons are never excused by the Lord or by any agent of the Lord. One should therefore utilize one's life in glorifying the Lord by all means, without any offense. Such activities of life, even for a moment, is never to be compared to a prolonged life of ignorance, like the lives of the tree and other living entities who may live for thousands of years without prosecuting spiritual advancement. I was born in the darkest of ignorance. My spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. And there's a lot of really important things in this purport, so I think I'll just go from the top. We still have people here who are, make sure that we have people here who are relatively new, that I can actually explain these things to them. So, going back to the top, so Srila Shukadeva Goswami instructed Maharaj Parikshit about the importance of the chanting of the holy name of the Lord by every progressive gentleman in order to encourage the king, who had only 7 days remaining. He said it's better a moment. So that could be any of us. None of us knows if we have 7 days or less. None of us really knows. We don't get to know it like Maharaj Parikshit got to know it. So we could be living for decades, and all of a sudden, boom. Sometimes even important people that you think nothing would ever happen to them. Like, say, I was just thinking recently for some reason about Tamal Krishna Maharaj, one of the starting gurus. He was preaching strong, he was doing great, and then he got killed like that in a car accident in India. We don't know. So it's better that you could practice. What if I had only 7 days? I should be conscious right now. We can study this, we can practice. What if I only have this moment? So we should practice becoming conscious of Krishna. We should practice by hearing, by chanting, by studying, by doing our japa, trying to do it without offense and with meaning, with attention. Because we don't know. If you knew that you were going to die, if you're in a plane and it's going down, then you'd start chanting quite intensely. And actually I heard the Beatles, that happened to the Beatles once, and the plane was righted. It was going down, down, down. They were chanting really loud, and it was righted. So they were protected. But that doesn't always happen. You look at Tamal Krishna Maharaj, I don't know what happened, I don't know how the accident happened, but it happened, and he was dead. So I left his body. So we don't know. We don't know where we're going after that. Sometimes some people have a nice life, and they're thinking, well, I'm not afraid of death, because life is nice, death is natural, life will be nice again, and we don't know where we're going to go, and we don't know how death is going to be. There aren't very many nice ways to die, I usually say. And there are a few, but there aren't very many nice ways to die. Mostly it's kind of bad. And so we should not be glib about it and falsely self-confident that we're not afraid of it. How do we know we're not afraid of it? Of course we're afraid of it. We don't want everything familiar taken away from us. And then you have nothing familiar anymore. Wherever we're going to go from there, we're attached, So we are afraid of death. And it might be horrendous. It might be terrifying, and we don't know where we'll go next. So better to live for a moment with full consciousness of the supreme interest to be fulfilled. The supreme interest of life is eternal with full knowledge and bliss. Our natural state is to be a soul, fully self-expressive in the spiritual world with a form that's made out of the soul, and full of knowledge and bliss and eternity. So this is the supreme interest, and we are here in this temporary world, so attached to temporary things because we're depending on them. It's called fallible soldiers. We depend on fallible soldiers in this life. And they're, sooner or later, eventually, they're all going to fail us. And then we're going to have to die. So why not depend on the eternal? And we can, by chanting and chanting and chanting and awakening our dormant love for Krishna, we can become more, we can gradually become a little bit in the eternal world. And then a little bit more and more as we chant, as we read about Krishna, hear about Krishna, and do devotional service to Krishna. Gradually becomes more and more real, and we have to live in that world eventually. And the great devotees could go there in their meditation. There's a story of one of the great devotees, one of Lord Chaitanya's followers, who was in meditation. In meditation, he went to the spiritual world. And what did they happen to be doing in the spiritual world? They were having holy. You know, where you throw the dice on each other? So he went to the spiritual world in his meditation, and he participated in holy. And he came back, and his clothes had colored dye on them. His meditation was so strong and so real that he really did go there. So that's possible eventually. But we have to keep on chanting. This is the way to chant the holy names. Let's see. The animal propensities. Those who are bewildered by the external features of the material world. Bewildered, that means bewildered. You don't feel bewildered when you're bewildered. You feel like you're on top of it. You feel like you know what's going on. But you're perceiving the world around you according to how your brain organizes what your senses pick up. And there's an illusion to this because you take this as real. And actually, yeah, it's real energy, but what you're perceiving about it isn't so real. It's illusion. I'm this body, this is mine, this is my world, you know. This is a wood table, it's hard, solid. Actually, that's an illusion itself because it's mostly space and energy. So what we think we perceive in this world is illusion. Our identity with this body is illusion. And it's such a strong illusion that's called bewildered. We're bewildered and we don't even know it. So by the external features of the material world, engage in the animal propensities of eat, drink, and be merry type of life. So we say also eating, sleeping, mating, defending. The animals do it, the humans do it, everybody does it. And so why should humans only do with their human life, which can conceive of so much more, only do what the animals do? Only, of course, humans spend some money on it and do it up nice, but it's the same things. So why only do that? It's wasting valuable human life. In the human life, you can understand such concepts as, who am I really? Is there God? Who is God? Why am I here? Why am I suffering? Animals, they just suffer. They assume they're the body, and they go with that. That's it. No thought of God. They have no capacity. They're in the prison of a lower kind of body with a smaller computer, a brain, and they are unable to think these high thoughts. As humans, we can. But as souls, we can reincarnate in any body, and we have to live our life in such a way that we aren't going to be animalistic and get an animal body next. That's really, really important because animals, sometimes they're pampered and sometimes they really suffer. Sometimes they're really, really lost for a long time. Many, many lifetimes of animal bodies. So, wasting lives by the unseen passing away of valuable years. Do we see time? We don't see time. We're surprised when we find out so much time has passed. Wow, I've been here almost 4 years. You know, we're surprised at these things. And some kid is growing up. Wow, we're surprised. You know, this unseen passing of time. And we can't make it stop. As we get older, it seems to go faster and faster. We can't make it stop, and we can't see it happening. But it's happening. Valuable years. Our valuable years of human life are passing. So we should be chanting very sincerely, chanting the holy names, and developing our love for Krishna, because that's our eternal reality that we have to come back to. We should know in perfect consciousness that human life is bestowed upon the conditioned soul to achieve spiritual success. That's why we get a human body, not so that we can eat, sleep, and mate and defend better, eat, sleep, drink, and be merry better than the animals can. That's not why we get a human body, although that's possible to use it that way, but it's a waste. Like you get some money, you can use it for good or you can use it to get drunk. You know, it's possible to use the money for anything, but we want to use it for something good because money is a limited thing. So is time, so is the human body, a limited thing. We want to use it for what's really going to have lasting effect. Let's say the easiest possible procedure to chant the holy name of the Lord. Why is it the easiest possible procedure to chant the holy name of the Lord? If I say your name like I say Jai Putney, you listen, right? You're paying attention. If I say John, you sharpen up and pay attention, right? Valeri or is it Daniel? Daniel or Krishna Shraya. Who's in the back? I can see.
Talavana.
Taliban. Okay. We don't have any of the new people here, do we? I thought I couldn't see who was in the back. I thought he was one of our woofers. Anyways, it's kind of speaking to a woofer somewhat. So let's see. I did not hear. Okay. Why the holy name? Because then every time we say the holy name, we're connecting every single time. So we've been disconnected for so many years that we can say the holy name as many times as we can. It's still good. It never gets old. It never gets. We may be physically tired, but the name never loses meaning to us like a material name, which if you say it enough times, it loses all meaning and just becomes some useless abstract sound. Whereas the holy names don't, because they're transcendental sound vibration. They're not different from the person. Can't get tired of him. Krishna is unlimitedly able to keep his devotees attracted and entertained and happy because there's no limit to him. There's no limit to the satisfaction that we get. And so keep saying this holy name, but we can actually do it with offenses or without offenses. So offenses, basically, the saying is, the teaching is that all the offenses, like we chant 10 offenses in the morning, a list of 10 offenses. All of them come from inattentive chanting. And the frustrating thing is, you can cure all those 10 offenses except the inattentive chanting. Still inattentive. The mind keeps coming back to material attractions. And pull it back, pay attention to names, it goes back. So, what can we do? Well, we can keep trying. We just keep trying. And you can, from time to time, overhaul your chanting. Maybe you've got some habits of glossing over some parts of the names. So you can, from time to time, stop and look at it, make sure you're pronouncing, hear how you say it, and I'm actually not saying the N in Krishna. This is what I realized lately. I was saying something more like Krishna, Krishna. And the N was like almost happening, but it wasn't touching, Krishna, Krishna. And so I realized, well, my intention is there, my mental chanting is there, but, I mean, my mind wanders. My intention, at least, is there. So it wasn't useless, but it was better when I made sure to say Krishna, Krishna. And I had to make a conscious effort to change my habit, because when you chant fast, you may have some habits that you don't realize. So I've heard people skip part of the mantra, I've heard people say things carelessly, so many different things. So we should, time to time, overhaul our chanting. Make sure we're really saying names. They should be pronounced right, but the purpose is not to some kind of geometric design of sound vibrations that if you say it right, you get a certain effect. Like a Karmakanda mantra in the ancient fire sacrifices, when they wanted some material effect, and they'd have to chant a certain mantra a certain way and get a material effect, and if they made a mistake in pronunciation, the undesired effect would happen. So that's materialistic chanting. And yeah, there's a science to sound vibration that way, but this science is higher. It's the science of the soul connecting with the greater soul. So it's a science between persons. So you chant the name properly in order to respect that person and really connect with that person, not in order for the sound vibrations to work. It's not like a material mantra to get a certain effect. The idea is you got to make sure you're chanting names, and so that way you're making real connection with the Supreme Person. That's the whole idea of chanting. And you hear while you chant. And sometimes devotees, in the attempt to chant really well, chant better and better, they adopt these like techniques. So, well, let me think about a particular pastime while I chant. Actually, we don't have to do that. Prabhupada said many times. He said it's good to do that, but he said we don't have to do that. He said in more places this way, that just hear. And as you get purified, the pastimes come automatically, because if you're chanting the real name, you think about the real person, and you remember some things you know about the real person. It happens kind of naturally as you go along. So the main thing is hear your chanting. So chant loud enough to chant so you hear it. Sometimes you can chant in your mind too. There are times when I'm maybe too tired and I actually hear better chanting in my mind for a while. But that you get the feel, whichever works best. But at least a good portion of the time you should chant so you hear it with your ear, and then it goes into your heart. And this hearing and chanting is, hearing can mean hearing from others, can mean reading the books, it can mean a wide variety of things, and chanting can mean a wide variety of things too. But in the mantra chanting, in the japa chanting, you're hearing and chanting. And you don't have to make an extra effort beyond that, something a little bit artificial to apply to it to make it real. You just chant, make sure you're chanting the real names, and make sure you have that consciousness that these are real names, and just hear as you chant. And the relationship will be real. It's really happening. So, let's see. Okay. It's easier to see here. We should know in perfect consciousness that human life is bestowed upon the conditioned soul to achieve spiritual success. Easiest possible procedure, chant the holy name. There's different types of offenses committed unto the feet of the holy name. Feet of the holy name, where's the feet? Well, the holy name is not different from Krishna. So, yeah, feet of the holy name. So, Krishna has two main forms. His visible form when he's visible, and his, the form that would see, would spiritualize or materialize, and the holy name, the sound of the holy name, is equally his form. So we have to watch out for offenses, because we like I said, we chant the list of offenses every morning when whoever is here and at home maybe too. So to try to remember, and then so the main offense is inattentive chanting, because then when you're not attentive, then you're not being personal with the Lord, and that's the root of all our other problems, because we didn't want to serve Krishna, so we came here. So that's the root of all our problems. So, but then in this purport, he's talking about not blaspheming, putting a lot of stress, not blaspheming the devotee of the Lord, nor indulge in hearing others who are engaged in belittling a devotee of the Lord. So then we have all these problems. Okay, what if the devotee of the Lord is doing something bad? Well, if he really is doing something bad, we apply the thing, hate the sin and not the sinner. So if necessary, we may have to talk about it if it's something harmful and it needs to be discussed. We may have to say that so-and-so did such and such. But we should not forget that so-and-so also did devotional service. We should maintain this thing. The only problem is the behavior here. The person is, well, his heart is between him and Krishna, and we know that he also did devotional service. So it still does devotional service. Sometimes we have the really awkward problem of a really great devotee in our movement who abuses children. He did so much powerful preaching and saved so many people, and then he abuses children. So what do we do about that? Well, there's some things you can't just tolerate, you can't just allow. You have to act, you have to talk about it, you have to act. But we should not hate him, whoever this person might be, different persons. We should remember that devotional service was done, and the devotional service is in itself still real, because there's no loss or diminution. It's not like you can undo devotional service by doing something bad. It still exists. So maybe that if you make offenses, you can you can undo your advancement, but I think you undo it for a while. You have to suffer. You have to take a detour. I don't think there's any real loss or diminution, because good karma, bad karma, same principle. You have both. Neither of them can cancel the other out. So your devotional service can't be canceled, but it can be on hold while you get lost for a while and go on a detour, maybe a long time, depending. So be real careful about criticizing devotees. If you must express them, just express it as an action you don't like, rather than criticizing. Try to not criticize the attitude of the devotees. Try to not get into the mind too much, unless you're trying to be compassionate. And that way you're thinking of them as a devotee with problems. So we have to be really careful. And even then, if it's not our business, sometimes we have to just not talk about their problems. Sometimes we have to just absorb ourselves in thinking of Krishna and realize that we have nothing to do with that other person. The other person is, there may be an authority who has to deal with it. We just can let go. How about if I just mind my own business and do my devotional service? Life is so much happier, so much more peaceful. So, and we can make advancement because we're not involved in criticizing other devotees. We're not involved in, because it's kind of negative. Even if somebody did something wrong, you don't really like it. I mean, it doesn't do your spiritual life any good if you have to talk about it. If you have to talk about something somebody did, it's okay. But you don't. If you don't have to talk about it, it's really not a pleasant thing to do. It doesn't do you any good. It doesn't benefit you. So. This saying here, a devotee should try to restrict the vilifier by cutting out his tongue. The vilifier, we may be criticizing a devotee for criticizing a devotee. So we still have to be careful. We don't want to go jump on somebody and take out a knife and cut out their tongue. Nobody really wants to do that. So we also don't want to commit suicide. I mean, if we're suicidal, it's probably for a reason internally. Nobody wants to kill themselves over somebody else's bad action, so just get out of there. Just don't hang around and listen. This is meant to express how serious it is. Because if you don't get out of there and stop listening to it, you are sort of committing slow suicide by letting yourself be brought down. So this is what we got. We got to understand the seriousness of this. Let's see. And to not confuse the holy names. Different names, not to confuse holy names with names. There was two of I've been reading, was it here or something? There's maybe right in the previous verse, but I read a bunch of things yesterday. Can't remember where, but the holy names are equal to one. We should give them all equal respect. It's true that 1,000 names of Vishnu equal one name of Ram, and 3 names of Ram equal one name of Krishna. So there are degrees of importance and effect of the holy names, but that's more about intimacy with the Lord. Because Vishnu is Krishna. So we have to respect Vishnu as much as Krishna. We have to understand that there's no actual difference between these names. They're not different. The name Vishnu and the name Krishna. But at the same time, we have to know who's the demigods. Who are they? So that we don't confuse them. Like Lord Brahma is a jiva soul, except in the occasional situation where there's to be a universe, but there's no one qualified to be Brahma, then the Lord will do it. But usually it's a jiva soul who's empowered to be the creator, because he's done so much good deeds and he's a good devotee or something. So, but that degree of qualification is rare. And still is a jiva soul. And Lord Shiva is an expansion of Lord Vishnu, except he's mixed with and affected by the modes of nature. So therefore he's no longer on Vishnu's level, although he's an expansion of Vishnu. So he's a special category. We have tattvas, we have Vishnu tattva is every form of Vishnu, from Krishna to Balaram to Vishnu to Narayan to Kurma, the turtle, the tortoise incarnation, etc. The Lord Nrsimhadev, every form of Vishnu, Paramatma, super soul in our heart, is Vishnu tattva. Tattva means that's the truth of who they are. And every other personality is Jiva Tattva, or a soul in some position. Then we have Shiva Tattva. He's a special in between. He's kind of unique. So he's got his own particular tattva. It's like the example, it's like milk. When it's turned into yogurt, it has a contamination in it. It has something sour or some bacteria in it, beneficial bacteria. But bacteria is not pure milk anymore. And it can never be pure milk anymore. It's changed, it's curdled, and it'll never be pure milk anymore. And you can't use it in a recipe for milk, or maybe some recipes, but anyway, you understand what I'm saying. Whereas, let's see, milk is still not, let's see, lost my train, did I say the whole thing? Like Lord Shiva is the yogurt, he's still milk, but he's not milk anymore. So he's his own tattva. This is from the Brahma Samhita, tells us that example. Let's see. So we have to understand no one's name can be as powerful as a name. No Jiva Tattva name or even Shiva Tattva name can be as powerful or as special as the Lord's holy names, whichever holy names they are. Make sure I say everything. And don't use the holy name. Chanting the holy name gets rid of sins, sinful effects. We have so many sinful effects that we're carrying around in our karma, in our desires, in our heart. So many effects of lifetimes and lifetimes of sinful activities. And the holy name will free us from that. But we get crafty and say, I still like to do some of these things. I'll just use the holy name. The holy name will make it okay. Then they can still do this. Then it says, no one will be forgiven for that. Well, you will be forgiven if you're sorry and stop doing it. But not if you're still doing it. You're not going to get forgiven for your sins. If you're using the holy name as a way, it's like purchase your right to commit sins. So that you'll never be forgiven for. So, last sentence is such activity of life. One should therefore utilize one's life in glorifying the Lord by all means without any offense. Such activity of life, even for a moment, is never to be compared to a prolonged life of ignorance, like the lives of the tree and other living entities who live for thousands of years without prosecuting spiritual advancement. Like people of today who want to lengthen their lives, they run to the doctor, they take all the vitamins and everything, they try to, everything they can do to prolong their life. Why? Because they don't want to die. And all they've done is put off the moment of death, which is coming anyways, and they haven't done anything spiritual at all. So what is the use of that? So let me just read the verse again. What is the value of a prolonged life which is wasted, inexperienced by years in the world? Well, we have a lot of material experience, right? So I'm not sure how that is used there, but it seems to be by years in this, so many years in this world, you have no experience. You're not accepting any experience of how I'm not this body. It's going to die. I got to leave. You're not picking up on that. So better a moment of full consciousness, because that gives one a start in searching after his supreme interest. So, any questions or comments? I see a hand. It's hard to see. Yes, Valerie, is that your hand?
Yeah.
Much good.
I have a question. What you just read about committing suicide and cutting out the tongue, does anybody realize that this is all that should be all
Yeah, so I'd say it. It's kind of hard.
Is anybody realizing that what you just said and what's written there, I mean, this is my 100% belief that this stuff should be totally 100% allegorical. You just, if you have heart and if you have a little bit of brain and common sense, you should understand that something like this should never happen in the real world. That somebody, because people criticize all the time, there are conflicts between devotees, because there are different groups, different religious denominations. Even within Chaitanya movement, we have hundreds, if not thousands, of branches.
Mm-hmm.
And people, it's very natural when people criticize each other.
Mm-hmm.
So when somebody hears this, and we have very many fanatical people, in religious people, they're very fanatical. I mean, unless you are on a high level. So if somebody follows this instruction, I just can't even imagine what can happen in the real world. In the South, there are such stuff as vengeance. Like if you kill a relative, it's a law for them to avenge something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So in your mind, I can't even imagine that somebody would commit his offense and thinking about cutting out somebody's tongue or go and commit suicide. So
yeah, well, don't worry, we're not actually instructed to do that. I mean, can you imagine? I never heard of anything Prabhupada saying you should go and cut out his tongue. I never heard anything like that. Never heard of anything like that. And if somebody did that, the police would be there, and it wouldn't matter if you said, well, he was blaspheming Prabhupada or something. Well, too bad, you go to jail, you know. So we are obviously not literally supposed to do that, and we're not literally supposed to commit suicide because we have years of devotional service ahead of us and more advancement to make. It's an illustration to make sure this particular thing, yeah, it's allegorical, it's illustration to make sure the point gets made that if you don't leave the scene, this is how bad it is, this is what ought to be done. Not that you should do it, you should leave the scene. Or if you can defeat them and stop them. And some people are basically honest people, and they're criticizing somebody. If you can defeat them, if you can remind them, don't criticize. If you can tell them actually that's not true, that person is like this, then they'll stop if they're honest. If they won't stop, they're not completely honest. They just want to criticize. So therefore, you can't. You have to just leave. Just leave it. Like the stories in the Bhagavatam, they go jump in the Ganges with all your clothes on, don't bother to undress. Just jump and get purified. Whatever, jump into the holy names or whatever, get away from that and let it go and don't participate in it, don't hear it, don't do it. That's what it means. It's stressing the importance of it. Yeah.
right, and I think it should be specifically stressed because many neophyte devotees, they don't understand all this.
That's why I stopped right in the middle of reading to say.
There are also suicides committed when people reading scriptures. I know it's in Vaishnava history. There are devotees who would commit suicide, and then Prabhupada, he would feel sorry that such and such devotee would commit suicide. So it's very important to analyze, not just accept whatever you hear without,
you have to understand the whole thing.
Yes, and it's very, very important to explain to people that it should be understood literally. Because if you have heart, if you have a little bit, like I said, a little bit of common sense and brain, it's very important, I think.
Well, we're supposed to use our intelligence.
Right.
And so we read the whole purport. We're not supposed to just grab a part of the purport and say, oh, I got to commit suicide now because it said so in the purport. We're supposed to understand with intelligence. So we have to help each other understand with intelligence. And yeah, you're right. We should make sure. That's why when I was reading that, I stopped immediately right when we got to that point to say that doesn't mean we have to actually do it. It means we have to leave the scene so that we shouldn't have to do it. You know. Like
and one more comment. In Russia, I've been since it was registered in Russia, and I lived in a community where you have 200 devotees living in a temple. Because young people's brain or understanding of life is very limited and don't have experience. Whatever they listen, they take it literally. There were many nervous breakdowns with devotees just about cleanliness. I'm going to give you an example of one of them. Like, they hear about cleanliness, how we have to wash hands, anything we touch, especially concerning the deities. So very common nervous neurosis is, if I can explain it, a person becomes so, I don't know the English term, anyway I'll just give you an example.
It's called OCD.
What's that?
OCD.
Obsessive compulsive.
Disorder.
Too fixed on that.
Just give you an example. A person, he can't. I know there is a very medical explanation of that. I don't know if it's OCD like you're saying, but for instance, a person instead of switching off the light with his hand, he would rather switch off the light with his foot.
What?
Instead of turning off the light,
Turning over the light.
like
Light.
a switch.
Light
switch.
Oh, we'd rather use his foot. Yeah, so that the next person coming along has to touch where the foot was, right?
Because he thinks if I touch it, and this is a neurosis. I'm sure hundreds of years of psychology already explain this, but this is the reason I'm giving this illustration so that people can understand how immature 20-year-old brain is. That's why it's very important to explain when people hear something like this. It's extremely important to say this is allegorical. It shouldn't be understood literally.
Yeah, I mean, the cleanliness is real. Like if suppose you're a surgeon, you can't just switch on the light and still consider yourself clean. Because there may be germs on the light. So there may be some contamination on the light switch. So we have to be patient too. People grow and it gets incorporated in a whole way that becomes part of your understanding and it becomes natural. Whereas in the beginning, everybody's got some kind of fanaticalness in the beginning. And I don't know how you can avoid that except by telling people, don't worry about it, you don't have to be that fanatical. Well, how can we train anybody if we tell them they don't have to be fanatical? So they have to go through this phase where things are not balanced yet. I mean, we are not raised in the culture, so when we get trained, we go through phases because we're changing our culture. So, there's immature phases, and you just have to, the people guiding have to be aware and try to help people, that's all.
Just one
somebody
more.
else's turn.
Another, I think it's very important, otherwise I would forget. Another...
Okay, go ahead.
I will stop at that.
Okay, go ahead.
No.
No? Well, you said because it's very important, otherwise you'll forget. So
because I see Katya, she is laughing.
Oh no.
Well, take it a little bit because we're all afraid of forgetting something.
I usually silent, but I went through a lot of things in Russia when this was happening, so that's why I think this is very important to discuss. People usually say this information and people usually they take it literally. Like who out of all of you would think that you should understand allegorically?
Who would all us would what?
I mean, when you read that information, who out of this devotees sitting in this class would think that this is allegorical? I'm thinking many people, I mean, I might be wrong, but
I didn't take it literally.
Nobody takes that literally, that we should cut out somebody's tongue. Nobody does.
Yeah, so we agree.
Then it's good.
Yeah, yes.
We had a discussion about the literal devotees. Take everything literal. That's there in the word and we have to follow it. And then the figurative, is it word figurative? Or allegorical?
Everything's an allegory.
And so, it's
you have to have enough practice in devotional service to give you a better and better understanding of what's to be taken literally and what's a manner of speaking to give us a literal idea.
And some things are literal too.
Yeah.
Like the 4 regs. You say, oh, that's allegory.
That's allegory.
You can take it or leave it.
Too much illicit sex.
Everything is
don't
balanced.
be fanatical about it.
But I think it was Mother Jamuna was cooking with Prabhupada, and it was a little thing she did where she put her hand on her face.
She kept touching her face, and
Prabhupada said, you have to wash your hands.
Yeah.
And I worked in a hospital 20 years, and sometimes you have to be OCD.
Yeah.
You can't pick up the phone. The phone rings on we had old phones where you actually a real phone, not a cell phone. But I've seen a doctor reach up with his gloves on after you handle a patient and grab the phone, talk on the phone, put the phone down and go back to the patient. And the tech had to tell him, the technologist had to say, Doc, you just handle the phone. He said, oh, thanks. He pulled the gloves off and went back to doing a cut down on the vein. You don't do surgery and handle stuff in the room.
Yeah.
So you have to be OCD in a way. But I think this devotee was saying that there are devotees that are literalists, and he used, I think that's the word, literalists. and then there's devotees that are figurative.
It takes some time to understand the difference when it's to be applied literally and when it's a manner of speaking. And not very much allegory, but sometimes it's actual allegory. But allegory is more like a story that explains something. A manner of speaking, figure of speech, a manner of speaking to express the importance of something. But if you don't surrender and go through and do things that you think, why do I have to do this? This is fanatical. And if you don't surrender, you won't understand through your body's experience why it's important. Like if you are working with germs in a hospital, if you aren't literally taking, you think it's fanatic. Why do I have to wash my hands again? But you think it's fanatic, but because you don't realize the germs, you don't realize that you're touching the light switch or something, So until you obey what seems fanatical, not that you cut out tongues, but the practical daily instructions that we have, the actual thing you got to obey is get away from somebody who's blaspheming or stop your blaspheming. That's what we have to obey. And so if you don't take the instruction in obedience, you won't learn it in your living. And you won't be transformed to the new culture that we have to transform to. We aren't here in order to hang on to our material cultures. At the same time, if we, it's a very, when we change cultures, we could be tumbling in space for a while till it all makes sense. And we might do fanatical things, like in the beginning they would actually get down on their hands and knees and lick up prasadam off the floor to show that they honored prasadam. Fine. Because they were practicing the principle. No, we don't tell anybody they have to be on their hands and knees and lick the prasadam off the floor if it's spilled. We don't tell anybody they have to do that. But in the beginning, because it was so new, they're like floating around trying to make it real, trying to adjust to it. So they did fanatical things. So we have to be wise and know when to tolerate something like that as a phase somebody has to go through in order to learn a principle.
They would race to see who the first one could get to.
Yeah, so we have to understand that was the phase of learning the prasadam is not ordinary food. If you spill it, you just wipe it up and throw it away. Prasadam is special. So you may have to wipe it up and throw it away, but your consciousness about it is changed because if you went through that phase. You see, so be patient with people who are some kind of OCD or something. Be patient with people's fanaticism. We can't be doing violence like cutting out tongues and committing suicide. Obviously, keep people from doing that. Nobody should be that fanatical that they don't understand that. So you have to. That's why we have senior devotees watching over young devotees and trying to help them. Yeah.
That's the seriousness, the level of seriousness on it. Such as if someone offends you, you should just tolerate and take it. But if they offend another devotee, you're supposed to kill that. According to the scripture, you're supposed to kill the offender or leave.
Yeah, so leave.
So it's that serious.
Leave.
Yeah. And so
if you don't leave, it's as bad as that. So.
This word vilification.
Yeah.
Synonyms were condemnation, character assassination, attack, denigrate, slander. That's pretty serious word. Yeah. That's not just saying, oh, so-and-so shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But it's going out saying, did you see? Did you see?
So-and-so is such a bad person, they always do that.
That's actually doing a campaign.
Be careful,
That's politics.
Yeah, so that's very serious. We do little offenses.
But if someone...
it's part of, we have to try not to, but they happen.
But being part of the training for child protection, CP office, CP, Child Protection Office, and taking that class, they said that it's not only a spiritual law, but it's actually a physical law in the land.
Not to offend.
That you have to call, you're supposed to report that. It's not vilifying somebody. It's saying that that's actually a crime.
Right.
It's like rape and murder.
Right. You have to protect. You have to take the right action to protect somebody from being harmed, even to protect yourself. And not that we have to be so humble that we let somebody injure us or something. Also, we shouldn't be so humble that we allow somebody to injure our devotional creeper. So if we shouldn't hang around somebody who's vilifying us. That we shouldn't hang around and be like a doormat and let them vilify us. At the same time, if somebody is correcting you, be humble enough to recognize this help that's coming. So this is, again, wisdom, to know. If we don't want somebody to just look at the results. If somebody is decreasing your devotional creeper, well, then kind of avoid that person. If they're somehow like making you feel like inhibiting you from your devotion or something like that because they're criticizing you. If, however, maybe they're criticizing you and you're proud and you take it that way. So we have to be wise and self-honest. What is the reason for our reaction? Is that person really like harming me? Or is that person, I'm taking it that person is harming my false ego and my pride. So we have to have some wisdom, when to be humble, when to protect our devotional creeper. All these things, we have to have some wisdom, when to say something about something that somebody did, when to mind our own business. These things take wisdom and they take mistakes, because that's how we learn. If you make a bad mistake and blaspheme somebody you shouldn't have, then you're supposed to apologize. You're supposed to say, I'm sorry I said that thing, please forgive me. You know, the person's supposed to, you go to the person you harmed if possible. So, there's a lot to learn. It's character. The most important part we have to learn and change our culture is internal character. So we have to grow in wisdom. And by that we have to have lots of devotional service, lots of reading of Prabhupada's books, lots of chanting, lots of hearing, even letting others criticize us because they might be trying to help us. You know, so and this becomes like a really negative effect, then just avoid that person to save yourself, you know? But not to save your pride and your false ego. So we have to learn these things. It takes time. It takes time. So in the beginning, people get it wrong. So in the beginning, that's another thing. We don't want to like criticize people for getting it wrong when we can understand that they're just going through a phase, you know? I mean, maybe the whole group of people there are going through a phase and they're trying. So we have to be a little kind of compassionate too. So anything else? Yeah.
Senior devotees can help you too.
Senior devotees can help you if a senior devotee is particularly imbalanced or something and harmful, or maybe a senior devotee is full of criticism, and don't go to that senior devotee if you find them not helpful. But people will tell you things that sometimes you don't like it, but they're telling you the truth. We have a false ego and a real ego, and we're all in the false ego. And so we don't like it when somebody tells us something that we don't like to hear that's actually true about how we should change if we want to be a better devotee. So we feel that person's attacking us. So you got to be wise to yourself about that and honest with yourself and not let yourself limit your growth by protecting your false ego that way. Yeah.
I remember in Atlanta, I had done or said something, and the speaker at the Bhagavatam class thought I had done and said something a little different. And he said, and take Bhakti Christopher.
He did such and such.
He did such and such. I didn't do it. And I said, excuse me. And a senior devotee said, psst, quiet. And I stopped talking and I let the devotee.
And it bugs you to this day.
To this day. He said,
you didn't stand up for yourself.
And later on, I got to go and talk to him and explain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that was not the place to necessarily try to explain.
Yeah, you should have said, no, sorry, I have to say, you know, shh, don't talk now. Yep, I have to say, I did not do that. It's a fact, I didn't do it. It's a misunderstanding. Shh, no, I have to say, if you really didn't do a thing, but maybe you really did do a thing and you don't like them saying it, you know.
Yeah, it's a difference.
So you have to be self-honest. But that was the case if you didn't stand up for yourself when you should have. You didn't protect your real self. Your real, you were being good and honest and you didn't protect that. So then it bugs you that you didn't say. I mean, we'll bug a person for years if you don't speak up when you should. Also, if you speak up when you shouldn't have. These things bug you for years, but these are the mistakes we make learning. So we have to tolerate each other's mistakes somewhat too and try to be compassionate about it. So he misunderstood. He was making a mistake too. So, okay. Everything else? Yeah, thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Srimad Bhagavatam.